You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan Schwarting and Kaan Bayazit.
Welcome back, everybody. Beşiktaş International's The Black Eagles podcast is back. A little late. Sorry for the delay, as always. There's always, organizational issues dealing with various time zones and whatnot. But anyway, we are back, and we have just a bit of time before our next episode. Remember, we're off because of the international break, so that probably had something to do with the delay. But before we even get started, I want to say stay tuned because we have some very important episodes incoming, and specifically the transfer one that we've been promising. We've condensed it into one big special episode. But anyway, let me allow somebody else to introduce that. First of all, we've got everyone's favorite co-host in from Belgium, Kaan Bayazit, everyone. How you doing, Kaan?
Thank you for your warm applause and welcome.
Yeah, and before I let you steal the mic to introduce that important episode, we have another special guest here today. Your other favorite co-host, Kartal is here, everyone. How you doing?
Thank you very much, guys. It's an absolute honor to be on the show yet again.
And take that, Evran. You're no longer third favorite, or whatever the pecking order is. He has better things to do, like play football, la-di-da-di.
Exactly. Go to bed at 10 o'clock so he can wake up like a responsible kid.
Hey, don't knock that. No, I would be doing that if I wasn't so busy right now.
That's the thing, is like I've been so busy for so many years that the notion of even like being 10 o'clock is when my work starts. Like, after you have a kid.
Yeah.
So it's
that is so true. That's like I'm actually really happy that school just started again, because now I can actually do stuff during the day instead of having to, play with. Well, not that I don't enjoy playing with my son all day and I'm spending time with him. Obviously, I do, but you can't really get anything productive done.
Yeah,
then.
It doesn't pay the bills,
Yeah, I can't actually go and interview someone when my kid's sitting next to me making noise and playing with his Transformers and stuff, So, so very, very well timed that school starts again, because I had a super duper busy week. 16 plus interviews. I'm more than halfway through right now, and as Sinan already alluded to, we are going to have a couple of big episodes coming up. The first one of which that will be dropping this weekend. I'm doing the final touches on that tomorrow. Is going to be our big transfer episode. So I finally managed to find and track someone down who can tell us a little bit more about Victor Ruiz, even though we've already seen him play for 3 games.
Finally!
So yeah, got the Victor Ruiz recording in. I already had a recording for George Kevin Nkudu last week. Spoke to Muhammad Ali. Many of you will probably know him from Twitter. He's an English journalist that covers Olympique de Marseille. So he's an expert on Marseille, and
nice.
he told us mainly what you will notice in these interviews is that I went back to find experts on people that could tell us about the players when they were in their prime, so to speak. Not saying that these players are in their primes anymore, but obviously Nkudu didn't get much chances at Tottenham, so I went to speak to someone who saw him play a lot of games for Marseille, which earned him that transfer to Tottenham. Did the same thing with Mohamed Elneny. Spoke to Oliver Zessiger, who is a professional football scout, also works on the Football Manager games. Many of you will be big fans of those games, I'm sure, right. And I'm pretty sure some of you do your scouting on those games, because usually, some people do it on FIFA, but the better way, the cool kids do it on Football Manager. Right. And Oliver, of course, has been working on Football Manager on the Swiss League for a couple of years. He's also a professional scout working for. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say which club, but he works for a club in Switzerland too.
TMI.
So anyway, he told us everything we needed to know about Mohamed Elneny, and you know what? I came out of that episode feeling really good about that transfer, so that's a good thing. Same thing really about Nkudu. All of you know I didn't really feel it, but what Mohamed told us, I felt a little bit better afterwards. Not saying that I think he's worth the 5 million investment we made. Obviously, I'm not saying that he's not worth 5 million, but it's all from our perspective. Is a player worth 5 million? You know, that's a difficult thing for Beşiktaş since that's a big fee for us.
Nkudu,
and then
right?
finally,
Nkudu is the 5 now.
Yeah, Nkudu. And then finally, Abdoulaye Diaby. I'm gonna be speaking to Michael van Warenberg tomorrow, who's a Belgian commentator for Play Sports, and he also works for Sporza, which is the biggest sports outlet in Belgium. Basically, it's the they broadcast the World Cup, stuff like that. Every week they have the talk show Extra Time. He works on that. I'm a huge fan of Extra Time. It's a great show. So I'll be speaking with Michael tomorrow. So all 4 of the transfers that we have not yet covered are going to be discussed in that episode. The episode is going to take roughly, I would guess, 70, 80 minutes. I think it's roughly 20 minutes per player.
Not bad at all.
So that's gonna drop this weekend, and then next week we have for you, of course, our traditional European preview, just like you are used to us from last season.
Yeah.
And again, those are going to be 20 minutes or so segments on each club in the group, including Beşiktaş. I spoke to Bruno Bottaro about Beşiktaş just in order so I wouldn't have to interview myself. That would be a little silly. And I wanted to get someone in who is impartial, who can give a neutral view. And that's also so that we can attract some listeners from supporters from the other teams in our group, of course, in the UEFA Europa League. So might as well quickly just give that out. I don't know if we discussed the draw already. We were drawn in Group K. Beşiktaş came out of Pot 1. From Pot 2, we got SC Braga, who of course we remember from the 2010-2011 season. We played them and knocked them out of the Europa League. Yeah, and then from Pot 3, unfortunately for us, I think Wolverhampton Wanderers probably the toughest team we could have gotten from Pot 3. And then from Pot 4, we got Slovan Bratislava. So, I'm going to have interviews on all 4 those teams. That's going to drop next week. We'll also be dropping previews on every single group that involves a Turkish club in Europe on Football a la Turca. So the remaining 3 European groups, the one in the Champions League with Galatasaray, and the 2 remaining ones in the Europa League with Trabzonspor and Başakşehir will be dropping on Football a la Turca next week too. So please be sure to check those out as well. That's
you are a busy
all
man, Kaan. Just thinking about all these.
No, I don't think I've ever worked harder in my life than this past week.
Well, the listeners, I hope you listeners are hearing this. But yeah, no, that's great stuff. Everyone stay tuned. And boy, we have a good episode today. We get to talk about some actual transfer activity that we didn't talk about, that hadn't come out before the last episode. And of course, we have a big match to discuss. We were at home against Rizespor. Perhaps not the best result, but so we can get into that. Before we start talking about the match, does anyone else have anything to say about, general podcast material? That's.
I have something to say. You, Sally, you negative little. Please beat that.
I will.
Or just cut it.
Oh! Calling them out. Yeah, I mean, so, yeah, the reason I said this is because I actually wanted to do a bit of an intro myself. We've tried to be as objective as we can, as analysts, I think, on this podcast, and I think we've done a fairly decent job of it. There's a trend online, certainly in our group chat, but that's a whole other thing that most aren't privy to. But there's a real trend of negativity. And of course, we can talk about the roots of it. I think there's a clash of ideology as far as some people thinking Beşiktaş needs to always be favorites for the title or competing for the title versus those who recognize that rebuilds are a thing that has to happen. But beyond that, I just think that this episode will probably serve as a foil to that. I don't think anyone here is as negative as that trend has been. And so I think, for those looking for a little positivity, especially because I think maybe we had a tendency towards negativity in the last season as Şenol Güneş's master plan dissolved, so to speak. I think I speak for all three of us, and when I say that, you can probably look forward to a little bit more optimism than you've been seeing online most of this week.
Yeah, definitely.
But so let's get into it. I'm gonna, I guess, quickly go over the lineup we came out with, and then hand it back to these guys to see what you guys have to say about that. So we came out into this match starting Loris Karius in the goal, Gökhan Gönül and Caner Erkin on the flanks, Domagoj Vida and Ruiz in the middle of the defense, Dorukhan Tokuz and Ozan played in the back of the midfield with Adem Ljajic in the number 10 role, Jermaine Lens was on the right with Tyler Boyd on the left, and Güven Yalçın starting again. Boys, what are your thoughts on that? Going into this match, what were your thoughts? I mean, and also generally, what were your thoughts about Rizespor? Did you think this had to be 3 points? Introduce your feelings about this lineup a little bit with that in mind. Kaan, you go first because I'm sure you have something to say.
I think it was the logical lineup to go with, except for you all know how I feel about Güven playing as a lone striker. I would have preferred to see Umut because I think he would have. I'm not saying that he's a more talented player than Güven, but he would fit the system better. I think he would fit that role better, so I would have preferred him. But apart from that, I think it was all logical what we saw, especially given Caner's performance last week, and he was injured, but then he got back quicker. And he ended up playing a good game again, so that made sense starting him over Rebocho. And Gökhan Gönül was good in this game. I felt like he struggled in.
Recovered after maybe a bad.
He struggled in that first game, but then last week against Göztepe he had a good game too. So it was a logical lineup for me.
Yeah, Kartal, any thoughts from you?
So I agree with Kaan. I believe that Umut should have been starting instead of Güven Yalçın. Just based off the fact that I just think that Güven is not suited to that 4-3-2-1 system. Sorry, 4-2-3-1. I think Güven would be more suited to a 4-4-2 because he just doesn't have the strength to hold up the ball. So if we're going to play a 4-2-3-1, I think Umut or obviously, ideally, if Burak Yilmaz playing up there, who's obviously injured just now, so we can't play him. So I would have picked Umut to play there. But other than that, it was a good lineup. Maybe I would have played Nkudu instead of Lens, but other than that, I thought it was a good selection from Abdullah, considering Caner Erkin's fantastic performance the week before against Göztepe.
Yeah. And as far as Nkudu goes, I think I'm typically, most will recall from the Şenol Güneş days, a proponent of getting guys into the lineup ASAP, especially guys who are long-term investments, as Nkudu is. But I also think it's fairly logical to maybe help him get his legs underneath him, because as we've said, he hasn't gotten a whole lot of action in the last few years. So, obviously we want to see him starting, though. I think we can all agree that at some point in the season we want him to be. And again, I think his pace. I don't want to spoil anything. We'll get into the match itself in a second. Now, quickly before we do that, thoughts on Rizespor. Did you guys think this should have been a guaranteed 3 points? Was this a kind of must win as far as you guys could tell?
Who are we starting with here? I'll start if you want.
Kartal, yeah, you go, Kartal.
Let's go. As a start, I thought we had to win this game, and even watching the game, I felt as if we should have absolutely destroyed Rizespor on Saturday night. We should have destroyed them. But even though the result was what it was, I see a lot of promise in this team. I see a lot of potential in this team. But I feel as if, as Abdullah just said after the game, that we played well. It's just we had a problem putting the ball in the back of the net, and if that problem was solved, this would have been an easy win for us. I feel as if, in terms of football, we dominated this game.
Yeah, I didn't even. Yeah, certainly, and I even felt going into this match, Rizespor has proven now fairly consistently that they can be a threat. They can be a bit of a menace. They're not an easy 3 points, maybe even at home. At this point, of course, we all know that playing in Rize is a challenge always. But yeah, let's get into it. One thing I will say before we start talking about the match is that regarding Guven Yalchin, I'm going to agree with both of you guys. I think if we're going to subscribe to the notion that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, we also have to subscribe to the notion that if it is broke, you should fix it. And if anything, if there's any lesson we've learned from the preseason leading into this now third match of the season, it's that Guven Yalchin is not functioning as a sole striker, or maybe even much at all, and maybe he needs to be loaned and playing against slightly lesser competition at the moment, just to build a little confidence in his technique and whatever. But anyhow, with all that said, I think what we can agree is that was not working. So there should not have been much harm, at least, in letting Umut Nayir have a shot, especially considering Burak Yilmaz is coming back soon. Now we've also got another striker who we have to talk about, sort of half striker, whatever that may be. But it seems like this could have at least been a last look at Umut Nayir, and if worst case scenario, you take him out at the half and put Guven Yalchin if it really isn't looking good.
Yeah,
but whatever. That's
I don't think you should forget either that Rizespor did take I believe a 6-point start to the season and won their first 2 games, so it's not like it was going to be a walkover. Yeah, I personally kind of expected that we, because they were out a striker, of course, with Mustafa El Kabir getting a very unfortunate injury last week, breaking his leg. I was kind of hoping that we shut them out. But I think we were all kind of expecting a win here because it's a home game. I was definitely expecting a more difficult test than Göztepe, so I wasn't too confident about the win because we saw that last week that striker position was still an issue. And I think with us right now, the position we're in at the moment, if we can get that first goal, I think we're good because organizational-wise, defense-wise, we're looking really solid. So as long as we can get that first goal, I feel really good about getting 3 points. But the problem is that that's proving to be a challenge. Let's not forget last week against Göztepe, they shut us out for 45 minutes too, and we managed to then get that goal in the first minute of stoppage time from the first half, and that escalated the match early on in the second half. But up until that point, we were having some difficulties. So it's just that's going to be our story of the season a little bit, I think, until Burak is fully back and fit. Getting that first goal is going to be a little bit of an issue for us.
Or getting goals in general, right? But so that's a good probably segue to start talking about this match. I think coming out of the match against Göztepe, we had an incredible second half to that match. So probably we might, or those of us who are analyzing things a little bit more carefully, would hope that that's the kind of form that would carry into this match. And sure enough, I think the first half looked a bit like more of the same. Of course, we were not scoring goals, and there were some sloppy touches here and there, but still, I think Beşiktaş were mostly dominating. There wasn't a lot of sort of moments for the official timeline, though. Jermaine Lens got himself a yellow card in the 7th minute. I don't even remember that, actually. How did that happen? You guys recall?
I can't tell you now.
Must have been fairly indistinct.
Might have been for dissent or something, because that's something we're seeing a lot this season because of the guidelines refs have gotten that they have to book at least one player when there's complaining. So I don't actually remember what he got a yellow for, although I don't, but it was probably still it.
Something dumb, yeah.
But anyway, by the way, I mean just generally from a little bit of a nitpicky yellow card probably is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't like a distinct, like bad, nasty tackle or anything sort of malicious, clearly, because we would have remembered that. But anyway, yeah, somehow he got a yellow. And there wouldn't be anything else on the timeline, of course, a lot of action, a lot of Beşiktaş possession. I think at the half, or slightly past the half, I remember seeing Beşiktaş had like 72%. We'll talk about stats later too. But anyway, in the 37th minute, Olcan Çağlayan you got to say, it was a nice finish. Fairly good goal on their end. They caught us cold.
Excellent finish, to be honest.
I actually know of Olcan because in FIFA like 2014 or something, I used to always take like a third division English team and then try to buy young Turks and then develop them into starters. And so he actually became fairly successful in like the Premier League for, I don't know, Plymouth Argyle or something. But sure enough, yeah, he scored a nice little goal in the 37th minute. But from Beşiktaş's perspective, there was definitely a lapse. It came down the right flank. Gökhan Gönül was caught way out of position. It was a counter, to be fair.
So if I remember correctly, we had a corner, and it came from that. Is that correct?
Not quite, because it was. I think we were building up. Maybe there had been a free kick or something, because for some reason the defense was in complete disarray, and there was some disagreement as to who this was. I think, like Evran, who you will all know as listeners of the podcast, said that it was Tyler Boyd who kept his man onside that allowed Olcan to slide past and have that sort of free run on goal. I actually thought it was. The person was blonde. I can say that. Was debating whether it was Caner or Domingos Vida, just because I assumed one of them would be the guy on the back line. But I don't know. You guys have any thoughts on this goal?
I just think it was a well-worked counter-attack, to be honest, Sinan. I thought it was a very well-worked couple of nice passes. Then an unbelievable reverse shot from Olcan Çağlayan, to be honest. There wasn't much we could do here. It's one of those things where we're going forward and we get caught with not a lot bit at the back and we're punished for it.
Yeah, I felt that. I mean, like Kaan was saying, you hope to get the goal first. You hope to score first. You hope you could kind of shut a side like this down. But at the end of the day, it's football and goals happen, right? Like, if you put most professional footballers one-on-one against the keeper, they're probably going to score somehow. And so, sure enough, it happened. But still, so we went into the half at that point, down a goal. But it didn't seem like we were out of the game by any stretch. And beyond that...
Yeah, I've just, for the last minute or so, I've just been trying to make out if it's him. Because I was royally convinced that it wasn't him. Because I thought that Boyd was the one putting pressure on the ball. But I just can't tell from the image. I don't think that's Boyd, though. That his hair looks too dark.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll watch it.
Everyone's latest. I don't know if he thinks Boyd is responsible for Quaresma leaving or something. But
so that's the vibe I got when he was going off on him, because I actually thought Boyd was having a very good game, and he was very essential in the pressing game. I felt like he was always the first one to put pressure on the ball, or one of the first guys. Obviously, that's his task as an attacker, but I thought he was doing that very well. I'm sorry I didn't interject before, because I was actually trying to watch that goal again and just trying to make out who it was keeping Olcan onside. But regardless of who it was, that person was in the last man position and was kind of doing their job. So whether it's Vida, Caner, or Boyd, I think what they were doing, if that's Boyd, you can't actually really blame him for keeping him on side, because he's not a central defender, he's not a left back, he's not a right back. His awareness, his positional awareness of an offside throw.
So I've watched the possession over.
Yeah.
So everyone is blaming Tyler Boyd here, but see at this point where this counter-attack's happened, Boyd's the only man back, so do you expect him just to lie back and let them carry the attack?
Exactly.
Of course he's going to press the ball. So
I think the mistake
is responsible for this goal is absolutely ridiculous, if you ask me.
Well, the thing is, we're gonna concede these types of goals from time to time,
Exactly.
and what the thing with that is because Domagoj Vida is really we're doing an insane amount of pressing, and Vida is constantly going up to help out in the pressing. That's part of the tactic, and sometimes the midfielder or the attacker or whatever is going to be able to turn away, not lose the ball, and then play that perfect. This is the thing here. Let's say we won the ball, I don't know, let's say 20 times in that first half. It's probably a ridiculous amount of time more because our ball recovery in that first half was so amazing. Whenever we lost the ball, we got it back within 5.8 seconds. 5.8 seconds was the average. That is insane. That is like Dortmund level. That's like Barcelona level almost. Because that's what they're aiming for, regaining the ball within 5 to 10 seconds. 10 is probably a little bit late, but that's what Barcelona and such are trying to aim for, and that's what we were doing. Obviously, Avci is a huge fan of Guardiola's style of play, so that's something he wanted to implement. We didn't see it yet in the previous matches, but here we really started seeing this.
Yeah, and we started to see it in the second half against Gustav.
And this was literally the only single time we didn't catch that ball back straight away almost, and they made the most of it. So you can blame whoever, you can scapegoat poor Tyler Boyd there. But maybe Rizespor deserve a little bit of an applause for an amazing counterattack. Look what Neil DePauw is doing there. The way he turns away and finds that pass.
Yeah, that is
brilliant.
Phenomenal.
He does. And that finish, oh my God. If he doesn't do it Trivela there, that was an inch perfect Trivela, by the way. I think Karius is going to save it, but because he does a Trivela, it bends around Karius and goes into the corner, and it's almost unsavable. Well, so that was a perfect finish from Oljan.
Yeah. I have it on good source that he could be a potential Premier League talent someday, guys. So I'm just kidding. That was my FIFA. That was my FIFA game.
It's absolutely ridiculous to blame Tyler Boyd for that goal.
No, yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
So what is he going to leave him to go 1-on-1? You know what I mean? Of course he's going to come back and defend.
No, it's. There's always
he's doing his freaking job. That's the thing. If Quaresma would have been that eager in defending against Sivaspor, maybe we wouldn't have lost 3-0.
I have a hot take here about like football fans in general, but especially like the more like the louder type. Everyone always needs to point their finger at someone, and it's a really crap tendency because sometimes even if you don't quite know who to point the finger at, you people feel this compulsion like, oh, if I don't single somebody out, people are gonna think I don't know what I'm talking about or something.
You know what it is? It is you know what? If it wasn't for that guy, we would blah blah blah. But, our team doesn't suck. It's just that one guy. Well, I'm sorry to break it to you. That one guy is part of your team. So if he makes a mistake, that maybe
Exactly.
Obviously, there's individual mistakes like Medel's mistake against Sivaspor, which cost us a goal, and then obviously Quaresma's poor marking on because that's a blatant mistake where Quaresma is just running towards the wrong person and is not keeping track of the fullback, which is his job in the system. That's a blatant mistake. There you can blame someone because he's not doing his job. Tyler Boyd is just doing what he's being instructed.
No, and I'm not saying that there's sometimes there's someone to point the blame at, but I think the negative compulsion is for those who maybe sometimes if you don't know who to blame, you don't just have to sort of arbitrarily that's the last person I saw on the screen, so therefore I'm gonna come on, just it's okay sometimes to say I don't know, humility, folks.
On this goal, the blame is that we didn't recover the ball within 5 or 6 seconds, and okay. That can happen. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and appreciate the beauty of a goal, even the one that you concede. And this was an inch-perfect counter and a fantastic finish. It was an amazing goal. Did Rizespor deserve that to go up 1-0 in that first half? No, of course not. Beşiktaş were absolutely dominating them and playing them to shreds. And Gökhan Akhan had made several saves already and good saves. We should have always been up. We were very unlucky to be down at halftime. But does that mean that we have to start pointing our fingers at someone for... Yeah, I think that's ridiculous. If you're going to point your finger at anything, then point it at the team for not being able to convert their dominance into goals. That's the real issue.
That's the issue.
Not
Which
the fact that we conceded
stems
one.
from another very specific problem, which is maybe we don't have the personnel there. But anyway, before we do any of that, back to the match at hand. Speaking of how pointing fingers is not so helpful, the sad thing that was done at the half, which supports those who were errantly finger pointing, is that Tyler Boyd was taken out of the match. Or Nkudu, on the other hand, who I think many were happy to see, but perhaps Boyd's pace and ability to stick to the ball even when he doesn't have it, to come back and defend, was lacking. But anyway, also Douglas would come in and make his debut for Beşiktaş, coming in for Ozan. So of course at this point now we have Gökhan Gönül and Douglas playing at the same time. I'll hand it to one of you guys. I don't know, what is the formation at this point coming in the second half?
So Sinan, it stays at a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
And what happens is that Douglas actually takes the place of Ozan Rizespor and plays in that kind of number 6 role. Whereas Dorukhan Topuz is left at number 8. And so you get Gökhan still at right back, Vidar Ruiz at centre back, Caner at left back. So it's, as I said, it's Douglas and Dorukhan in the midfield. On the right you've got Jeremy Lenz. In the middle you've got Adam Diaby. On the left you've got George Kevin and Nkudu. Then up front you've got Giovanni Alchin.
Yeah, and I will say that again, Caner was very present in the midfield. So I think they were shifting, like Kaan and I talked about in the last episode, again. Fairly effectively, because it's important to note that in the 53rd minute, just 8 minutes into the second half, Domagoj Vida would score on an assist from Caner Erkin. Granted, of course, it's on a set piece, on a header, but yeah.
No, it wasn't from. It came after the corner, so it was actually from open play.
Nice.
It's an open play.
There you go. But so yeah, Caner's presence in the attack again coming to fruition. But yeah, does someone want to describe that goal? Since apparently I've forgotten a little bit about it. Kaan, how about you? Tell us what happened there.
I prefer if Kartal does that. I'm not great at describing goals sometimes.
The color commentary, yeah, that's what these guests are for, right? So Kartal, tell us a little bit about it.
So Gökhan Gönül is actually in the midfield in this position here. Gökhan Gönül is actually sitting in the middle. Spreads it to the left of where Jan's sitting. Jan takes one touch to control, crosses it in. Vida's in the middle and makes him perfectly for a head on into the bottom right corner. Very well worked play.
Yeah, so there it is, and so Beşiktaş has equalized in the 53rd minute, just as the second half is underway, and of course that would change the pace of the game and the directive. In a way, I joked that perhaps we'd scored a little too early because we had so much momentum going into that goal. But shortly after the goal was scored in the 56th minute, Dorukhan would get himself a yellow card. In the 58th minute, Moroziuk from Rize got himself a yellow card. I always struggle with those names. Apologies to any listeners from wherever he's from. I don't even know where that is. In the 61st minute, Olcan would come out of the match, having scored a brilliant goal, as we've already said. And Jepovic would come in for Rize. In the 67th minute, they'd make another sub. Wow, Moroziuk would come out. Oh yeah, he got himself a yellow. Ovajikli would come in. Ljajic would get a yellow in the 74th minute. Anyway, I don't think we need to go into this. One thing I will note is that Rebosho would come in for Jermaine Lenz in the 86th minute, so he would get his debut. And then he and Nkudu in the 3rd minute of extra time would both get yellow cards. I think probably for complaining. But so yeah, that is it for the match. It ended 1.
No, Nkudu got a yellow card for breaking someone's ankles.
He jumped on the guy.
Well,
he didn't
really jump on the guy. He was going for the ball, but the guy tapped the ball away just before he could get there, and then he stepped on his ankle.
No, I mean, I think it looked a lot. I don't actually think the intent was at all to step on the guy.
No, there was no intent to hurt, but it was definitely a dangerous tackle.
Flagrantly dangerous.
Yeah, and the thing is, Nkudu should always have gotten sent off in this game. Not there necessarily, but he did something like a minute.
Yeah.
Like a minute or two later, he stepped on the heel of the goalkeeper when he was chasing down the ball towards the corner flag, and the goalkeeper was shielding it, letting it roll out. Yeah, so and then he kind of like stepped into on his heel or something, and he should always have gotten the second yellow card there. I feel like.
Yeah.
The first one, some people are saying that should have been, why was there no VAR there, to give a red card? Because last week, for example, Seri got from Galatasaray got initially a yellow card, but then had VAR interfere and they turned it into a red card. So obviously Galatasaray fans were like, hey, why the hell did that not happen to Nkudu? And I actually showed this footage to someone who is more who knows a little bit more about these things and the guidelines that the referees have and stuff. So the difference was Seri's leg last week was a little bit higher, so that was really more on the shin. This was like right on top of the ankle. And basically what the guideline is for the refs is the higher the foot goes, the more risk for injury. So even though that's not always necessarily true, but I think you also need to keep in mind, why is the foot that high? Exactly. You're taking a lot of unnecessary risk, while here they're just both going for the ball. It puts a lot more
question on intent when the foot is higher, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, not saying that this couldn't have been a red card, because, like I said in Football Turca this week, this could have definitely been a straight red. But the reason VAR didn't interfere here is because when a referee gives a yellow card for these types of positions where the foot isn't high, VAR will usually not step in because it's not a clear error on the referee's part. Whereas with Seri last week, his foot was higher. It wasn't necessarily like, I'm not saying it was like knee height or anything. It was like just a little bit higher, but that is enough to make it a clear error where that should have been a red card because he took too much risk to endanger his opponent. Plus, I also think honestly that the ball was gone already a little bit.
It goes to show you, right? The saying is true that football is in fact a game of inches.
Yeah, but it just does highlight that Nkudu isn't the smartest player in terms of keeping his emotions in check. Because I did feel that because I actually thought he was really good up until that point. He was very lively, and I actually watched a summary of all his runs, and the amount of runs he did from minute 45 up until that minute, like minute 93 or something, was impressive. And he did he caused a lot of chaos in Rizespor's defense. But then as soon as he got that yellow card, it felt like he was kind of shook. And then he could have easily gotten sent off. So I think we should be happy he didn't, and we are very lucky that he's not suspended for our next match.
So he'll be available.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and so before we dive into the sort of, and we'll try to keep this brief because the episode is running on, but into the highlights and lowlights and all that, just quickly I'll talk about the stats. Beşiktaş ended the match with 20 shots to Rizespor's 6, although only 4 on target to their 2. There were a number of shots that were not by definition on target, but that hit the post or were very close. So, that number isn't quite as dire as it looks there, but it should be said that we were very ineffective up front. So, not that surprising. Possession went to Beşiktaş, 70%. Man, that really held up even to the end. 70% to 30%. So Beşiktaş was dominant on the ball.
Yeah, I think in the first half it was even 90% or something.
I know, or it's
ridiculous.
83 or something. Yeah. But so then also 624 passes completed to Rizespor's 269. With an 88% accuracy rate. So Beşiktaş, again, that system was really showing. The ball was flying around the pitch effectively, accurately, quickly. Rize only completed their passes at a 66% clip. Beşiktaş committed 16 fouls, however, to their 10, which feels a little weird, honestly, in retrospect, but whatever.
I think that's normal with our pressing game because we're working so hard to recover that ball really quickly. Obviously, there's going to be some falls, especially. Not always. Yeah, and also just, opposition players that are going to go down easily and get the falls.
Sure.
That's going to happen. Who was the referee in this match? Oh no, it was Halil Ulutmene or something. I'm not sure. It was a young referee.
One of the new guys. That's not so bad.
It wasn't. No, but like for example, last week against Göztepe, if you have a ref like Ali Palabiyuk who literally, gives a fall for everything. That would be really, really detrimental when you play like this.
We would not have Nkudu in our next match for sure.
Yeah, probably. Well, we probably shouldn't have anyway. So.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. But so to follow up, we had 5 yellow cards. They only had 1, which is sort of commensurate to the amount of fouls, maybe. I mean, not quite, but whatever. Offsides, they committed 5, and we only committed 1. Last season, this was a theme that we were not getting offsides enough because that shows intent. And so, yeah, again, only 1 offsides.
Yeah, but here I think it's more a case of we're pushing them back so much, and they're getting some space and they're trying to counter. So it's a logical stats here.
Yeah, true. And finally, Beşiktaş had 11 corners to their 2. So that actually suggests exactly what you were just saying. That we were near their back line quite a bit, and they were defending near it as well. So that would mean less offsides. But so, yeah, sure enough, that's it for stats. Anything to be said about those stats? Do you feel like those are a clear representation of what happened on the pitch? I think maybe so,
Mm-hmm.
Compared to most of the time.
Beşiktaş we dominated this game. It was just, and I think the stats reflect that. It's just unfortunate they've ended up in a draw.
Yeah.
I mean, and something I would like to highlight. Sorry to interrupt you there, but remember against Rizespor? Remember watching that match, and remember how you felt about our passing, and compare it to this match.
Yeah,
we had so many wrong passes in the Sivas match. We had so many wayward passes that went straight to the opponent. In this match, I felt like almost every pass was good.
Yeah,
and we were sharp. It's so obvious. Ever since halftime of the match against Göztepe, we've looked like a team that's starting to play with the system,
I actually have a graphic of all the passing accuracies of individual players. So I'm just quickly going to try and look that up if I can find it. But it was really impressive. Like, the only player who had less than 80% was Güven. He had like 78% or something.
Probably thought yes. Güven was absolutely shocking.
Yeah, he had a really bad match, I think. I mean, so let's like, this seems like a perfect segue to our high and low lights. Certainly, we've all, without saying it, have sort of skirted around this central fact that Güven Yalçın did not get it done, and has not got it done since we've kind of needed him to be honest, because Burak's been out, and now it's still not time to talk about the news. But again, now that we have another striker, we'll certainly not be seeing Güven Yalçın up front. Although would you like these statistics, by the way, for the passing accuracy of the players? Sure, but one second, just now that we have this news, we can definitely. There is some other news that Burak Yilmaz might be returning for our next match. So
no, Başakşehir.
Oh, for Başakşehir. Okay.
So the one after. We have a Gazişehir first.
All right. Well, so we'll see some of our new transfer, who I'm not going to say anything about yet. But so, Kaan, before we move on officially, wrap us up on the stats with the.
So first, let's start with the goalkeeper, Karius. He only had 5 passes, but 100% accuracy.
Hey.
Ruiz had an impressive 89.9% accuracy. Of a total of 99 passes, he completed 89. Vida had an impressive 100% passing accuracy.
Whoa.
He completed 67 out of 67.
Whoa.
Gökhan Gönül completed 76 out of 86. He had an 88.3% accuracy. Oğuzhan, before getting subbed off at halftime, had 94.2% accuracy. He completed 33 out of 35 passes. Caner Erkin had slightly one of the lowers in the team, 84.1%, completed 69 out of 82 passes. Then Tyler Boyd, he was subbed off at halftime. He had an 87.5% accuracy, completed 14 out of 16 passes. Adem Laiç had 92.6% accuracy, completed 38 out of 41. Dorukhan Tokus completed 39 out of 50, so he was one of the lowest in the team with 70. 78%. Then Jermaine Lens had 86% accuracy with 37 completed out of 43 attempts. And then Guven Yalchin had the absolute lowest in the team with 18 completed out of 25. He had 72%. Then from the players who came on, Nkudu had 17 completed out of 19 attempts, so an 89.4% passing accuracy. Douglas had 38 out of 43 completed, so he had an 88.3% accuracy. And then finally, Pedro Rebocho completed 8 out of 9 attempts, so he was on 88.8%. So, except for Guven, who had an abysmal passing accuracy, 72%. There was Dorkan, who had a lower percentage, but the rest of them all easily above 84% passing accuracy. Obviously, there's going to be, with this type of football, there's going to be a lot of lateral passes. That's just the way it is. But plenty of risk being taken too with the passes, I felt like. So, it was very impressive, except we can see clearly where the weak link lied in this match, and that was Guven. And maybe Dorkan to a lesser extent. I didn't really particularly feel like Dorkan had a poor game, but he was also not that involved in attacks or anything like that, even though he was playing in a more offensive role, especially in the first half.
A guy to be ghosting in his position, so that's, it's not good that all I really remember was a clumsy yellow card he earned. You'd want something else there, perhaps. Yeah, but I mean, Kartal, do you have any other additions as far as lowlights go?
Not really. Other than Victor Ruiz, who I've always been a fan of. I thought every game he's played, he's been excellent for us. But I thought he could have potentially been sent off in this game.
Oh, the elbow! Yeah.
It seemed like a bit of an elbow. Yeah.
Nah, that was not an elbow.
I'm a great fan of it. I must say, I've been a great fan of Victor Ruiz. I think he's really the Marcelo replacement we've been looking for the last 2 years. But I thought he kind of. It did look a bit. It seemed like there was a bit of malicious intent there to me, at least.
It was very dumb of him. He lifted his arm and the guy ran into it, but it was not an elbow. It was like a forearm at best, and there was actually a VAR check for that. But I guess it was outside of the box because nothing was given. They definitely didn't check for whether it was a red card or anything, because then he would have gotten sent off. So I think the check was probably to see whether it was a penalty, and the conclusion must have been that it was outside the box, because otherwise they would have definitely called in the referee, because there was a VAR check.
It was outside of the box. Like, the guy's legs were in the box, but the contact was outside, and then he fell back into the box to sell it. But
yeah. So that's probably what they checked. So that would have been a penalty, most likely, if it would have been in the box. But anyway, that was definitely something you don't want to see from Victor Ruiz, because he's been impressive in these 3 games. He makes so many good interceptions, so many good crucial tackles when needed.
I think he might. If you talk about through the course of our 3 matches in totality, he's probably been our best performer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
Just that one moment of stupidity kind of
for sure.
To me.
And I actually mentioned this to the person I spoke to about him, Alan Dodson, who is the blog manager of Villarreal USA. We had a really fun conversation with Alan, really fun chap to speak to, and I did mention this actually to him, and he did tell me that's not something he does too regularly. So he's not really one for brain farts, generally speaking. But you never know. Sometimes you're gonna get something like that. But
content like that's always partially incidental. I mean, whatever. I didn't really worry about that too much. All right. That was easy. Highlights. Last little bit before we talk about a little news that's good.
Our pressing. That was my highlight. That pressing. I was at a wedding. I took my iPad. There was free Wi-Fi there. It was at a big hotel, fancy hotel, and there was free Wi-Fi there. I was like, oh my god, I can actually watch the game. And it was just at dinner. We were all sitting down for dinner. We had just had appetizers, and I think the main course was about to. No, actually, we just had our main course, and the desserts were about to come.
Oh, that's no
so
good miss.
I was like, yeah, okay, fuck the dessert. I was just watching on my iPad, and I was watching the first half, and I was actually sitting next to another guest who was Turkish, which was they put the Turks at the same table, of course.
Maybe they knew it was a game day.
I think he was a Galatasaray fan, though. Anyway, so I was watching the first half, and I was in awe. I have never, ever seen us play like that. Like, that pressing was so impressive. Just the way every single time we lost the ball, we went and got it back. And most of the time, we did it in a clean way, too. It was really, really fun to watch and impressive. And I just remember thinking to myself, there's no way we're gonna lose this match. We have to win this. We're just too good. And then, of course, they fucking score on the first opportunity they get. But it doesn't happen a lot to me. I remember last time I was like truly in awe was probably that goal we scored against Rizespor on the opening of Vodafone Park. The opening goal from Mario. Remember that one? That was perfect tiki-taka football, and I remember in 2004 we were playing, or in 2003 we were playing some amazing combination football that really impressed me. So it doesn't happen too often to me that I'm like in awe of the way we play. But this first half definitely, that pressing, that was something I gave me so much hope towards the future, and it really gave me instilled a lot of confidence in me, in Abdullah Avci, and I just have so much faith in that it's going to I'm not saying we're going to win the title this year and stuff like that. I actually don't think we are, but I think we're going to be watching a really fun team in a couple of weeks down the road. I think we're going to be enjoying watching Beşiktaş in the future because of the players we've gotten and because of the type of football that we're trying to play. And every week I'm seeing improvements, and I think that's also why Abdullah Avci was happy after the match. Despite the result, he was very happy with what he saw, and I had the same feeling. I didn't even read the comments from Avci after the match, because as soon as the match ended, I turned it off and I didn't pay any more attention to it, obviously. But so it's not like he influenced me or anything, but I felt the exact same way after the match. I was happy because I can see light at the end of the tunnel, and I didn't have that feeling last season.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree. I mean, I certainly agree.
So my highlight of the game, it's not any individual player on the park, Matt. Abdullah Avci is my highlight of this game.
Giving the manager some credit there. Yeah, I mean,
I just feel as if maybe the second half, despite us winning 3-0 last week, I thought the first half of this game especially was the best Beşiktaş I've seen so far this season. Despite us not scoring, despite us going into the half 1-0 down, I feel as if the first half of this game is the best Beşiktaş I've seen all season so far.
Well, and we warned you. I warned you.
Oh, very good.
I warned you, listeners, pre-episode that we were going to be positive here, and sure enough, we are coming through. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with anything. You guys are kind of piggybacking on each other, because that's, Kaan says the tactics, you say the coach. But no, sure enough, those are all both good points, big positives for this match. I will try to pick out an individual who really impressed me. Man, what am I doing? This is like a challenge.
That's the thing. I didn't really think anyone had a particularly good game. That's the funny thing, because I think tactically I love what we were seeing. But then when I was looking at the individual performances of players, I was rather disappointed with Laic.
Yeah, I was gonna say Laic
was trying to force. Yeah, he was trying to force too much. I think that had to do with the fact that he didn't really have anyone up front that he could trust in.
I mean, it's weird to do 2 weeks in a row, because I just gave this guy the man of the match last time, but I guess it could be Caner, honestly. Yeah. Weird. I feel weird. He's been taking to Abdullah Avci's instructions, clearly, and he's been doing his part in and you know what, the good thing about that is, because what's the thing people criticize about Caner? Defensive ability. His defensive ability, right? And with this new tactic, he's kind of taken out of that equation a little bit. Well, yeah, and his versatility is really I think Avci's system lends itself to his versatility.
Yeah. The thing with Janner is that he's positionally a bad defender, but he's a very combative player. He's going to be able to recover the ball and stuff like that. So when he's in midfield, his defensive ability is actually put to use, whereas at a left back, usually the problem there is that that attackers manage to slip in behind his back and stuff like that, where he's making positional errors. It's not like he's bad in duels or anything like that. That's never been Janner's issue. So I think what right now what Avci is doing, he's making best use of Janner's qualities, and that's showing he's a quality player. That's why I never agreed with people completely and utterly butchering and bashing him because of that. We always knew his shortcomings, and it's up to a manager to make the best out of it. And we blamed his Achilles injury, which was probably a reason why he's gotten a step slower. I think that might be a reason why he's having a little bit more problem at left back at times against good opponents. But I don't know. So far this season, these two matches, I feel sorry for Pedro Rebocho, but if Janner keeps playing like this, you can't really put him next to the team anymore.
I mean, it's fascinating, honestly, because imagine having a coach who sees a player playing a certain way and reacts and actually adapts to his abilities. We haven't seen this in a while. It's almost like I think it's easy to forget that's even a possibility. It's
almost like he's managing the players,
exactly. Which is funny because he came in as the system coach. And I mean, one positive thing here, of course, is that I think his philosophy does match Janner's style. But I mean, not even 100%. Whatever. I don't want to overanalyze it, but whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I don't necessarily think it does, because this is something that Janner has never done before.
Yeah. He's shown versatility going in to attack, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a good central midfielder. I mean, we've seen him as a positive influence on the left wing at times. But then, it's almost like he's found his role.
But you need to keep in mind that Abdullah Avci has been working with Janner since Janner was 17 years old, because he was his coach at the Turkey under-17 level. I think they won the Euros in 2005 or something with that generation, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And then, of course, he coached him in 2011 when he was briefly Turkish national team coach for the main team. So he's been working with Janner for a long time. He knows Janner's qualities, so he knows how to use him. And he's been putting him to good use. But the thing I do have to say with Pedro Rebocho, of course, he has similar qualities in the sense that he's a good crosser of the ball and stuff like that. So I can definitely see Rebocho fit into that same role. But I don't really know if we're still going to be playing with that false left back once one of our two new transfers is slotted in.
So this is, again, well done, Kaan. A good segue, and we can't keep you Euros up too late. I think we're coming upon the witching hour or whatever. But yeah, we do, of course. We would be remiss not to at least mention the fact that Beşiktaş has struck some deals since we last spoke with you listeners. Kaan, you're the transfer man, I think. Tell us who we've got, who we've added to the woodwork here.
So, of course, we knew that we still desperately needed a 6. I think that's something that kind of came to be. Most of us have known that we needed that Atiba replacement for a long time.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem like a top priority in the beginning of the window. I didn't have that impression that it was. But it slowly became a top priority as Atiba, of course, missed most of the training camp, and then Gary Medel didn't really fit that role, which we all kind of already knew he wasn't gonna anyway. But so we did make a move for a player in that role, and it's not necessarily a 6, but we did see that with the type of profile of player we were going after anyway, that Avci didn't want a typical 6.
With every position, he wanted more flexibility, it seems like.
Yeah, he clearly wanted a ball playing 6, kind of like Atiba is, by the way. So who did we get? Drum roll, please.
Yeah,
insert here.
Post-production, the magic of post-production.
We got Mohamed Elneny on loan from Arsenal, and of course, I spoke with Alex Zessiger today about Elneny's time at FC Basel. So please listen to that episode. It will drop this weekend. But yeah, Elneny is a player who's known for his passing accuracy, his passing ability. Not necessarily a man who can give that splitting through pass, but he's really good at switching the play from one side to the other with a good long ball. He has just generally good passer. He's a hard worker. Keeps running 90 minutes. I'm basically spoiling everything for the episode. So I'm going to stop doing that right now. But anyway, he's somebody who's going to slot into that place. I think we did see early on that Olsen was playing as a 6 in the training camp, and that he was maybe going to try and play Olsen as a regista. But I think what he's going to end up doing now is put Elneny at the 6 and then put Leij and Olsen in a central midfielder role, where Leij is probably going to go more to the left and Olsen's going to go more to the right, and we're going to play a more traditional 4-3-3 rather than the 4-2-3-1 where we've been. Whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying. So we're gonna probably play an actual 4-3-3 now. So that's Mohamed Elneny. He's gonna come in, and of course.
Well, hold on. First, I want to make a note on a personal side about Elneny. I have a very good friend who I've grown up with here in New York City. He's a huge Arsenal fan. And I mentioned this in the group chat recently, like, he's such a troll of mine personally that he actually had a friend in Turkey, and his friend was like, "Oh, can I get you anything?" And he actually requested a Fener shirt just to troll me, because he knows I like Beşiktaş and that I hate Fenerbahce. So the only thing I heard from him after the Elneny deal was, "Oh, this is a good move for you guys." And I was literally like waiting for the punchline, like with bated breath, like, "Oh no, here it comes." Because he's such a troll, you know. But even among Arsenal fans, I think there's a sense that it's not like he was a terrible player or a flop. It's just they had a lot of positional depth and a lot of other guys competing for time. You know, the age, right? He's not like,
he didn't really.
He's not young enough to be a prospect.
Expectations, but
but and he's not really young enough to be a prospect. But he never. The sense I've gotten is that it's not like he went out and threw a bunch of stinkers out there for them. Like, he didn't play terribly.
I think he played 90 games or something in 3.5 years, so that's definitely not bad. I might be wrong on that stat, so you can check me on that, because I didn't.
It's better than Nkudu.
Better than Nkudu, yeah. No, 90 games is quite a lot, so I was actually surprised by that stat, so I'm not sure if that's accurate, actually, so please do check me on that. I can't be bothered right now to open my browser, but no, I think it's a good get for us. Initially I was thinking, you know what, he's not really a 6, he's more an 8, but then sorry, that was so rude. Anyway, that'll all be discussed in the transfer episode.
One little question I have about the OTB, the option to buy. It was completely unrealistic, right? Like,
supposedly 18 million, which is completely unrealistic, but if that's true, and I don't know if it is, I can only imagine that Arsenal have something like, they have so much faith in the guy that he's going to have a good season with us that they don't want to let him go on the cheap now.
Yeah, so we can still negotiate it down in theory, right? If he...
Well, that's the thing. I mean, let's say he has a good season with us, then maybe his market increases and there might be clubs coming in. I don't think anyone's going to pay 18 million, but maybe a club will come in with a 10 million or an 11 million offer. And that's, I think, why they didn't want to, like, for example, commit to a 7 million option to buy or something. Because it's basically, I believe they paid 7 million pounds for him themselves. Yeah. So I think if the 18 million option to buy is accurate, because I've only seen that mentioned by a couple of sources, not necessarily the most trustworthy ones. So I don't know, but if it's true, I just think that's a good sign, because that means Arsenal probably have faith in the fact that he'll perform well and that there will be a market next summer for him. But I think they're always going to want to offload him at some point.
Yeah, and it almost I feel it gave me shades of Kagawa, and I don't even mean that in an inherently negative way. I just mean, perhaps it's also a kind of like, we're not going to lock you into this club so he can get a sense of how much if Elneny loves playing for Beşiktaş, maybe then he can say, guys, could you lower that asking price?
Well, I don't know. Arsenal are a club owned by Americans, if I'm not mistaken, and I think those guys are pretty much out to make a buck.
Well, it's only half ownership.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on because there's another segment here. How about Kartal? We haven't heard from you in a bit. Why don't you tell us the guy's name, or at the very least, or give us your quick first impressions before Kaan, I think, probably takes over again. But we do have a striker / winger, which isn't so bad actually. Again, flexibility, that seems to be the key for Abdullah Avci. But so, who am I talking about? We got the drum roll again, Kartal.
We've signed Abdullah Diaby from Sporting Lisbon on a 1-year loan with an option to buy worth €5 million. He stands at 1.73 m. He's a right winger / striker. I feel as if I can understand the move, because I feel as if maybe we did have that need for a right winger after Quaresma's departure to Kasabasha.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel as if if we're going to buy a striker to be Burak's sub, we had to be another pivot striker. So with a bit of height, a bit of strength, they could hold up the ball. So it feels as if that's what suits us the best. But
look at how we played against Rizespor. How many high balls did we play up top?
Very few.
Yeah, so I don't really think we need height up top necessarily. I think that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, Abdullah Avci's always kind of had the ball on the ground, right? Mostly.
Yeah, Avci played with Adebayor at Başakşehir, which is more the target man type, but he also played with Robinho up top at Başakşehir. So
I was surprised how often he didn't rely on Adebayor even. So.
In the first season, when he first came, he was really good, and he relied on him heavily. And then before that, he relied on Mehmet Battal, which was a typical target man type. But then, when Robinho came, he often used Robinho in the striker role. So his game style can revolve around having a good target man, but it can also revolve around having
do you know what it feels as if when he started using Robinho in that number 9 is when it started going wrong?
Yeah, but that wasn't the reason for that. That wasn't when that started, because he was using Robinho at the beginning of the season already, and because Adebayor wasn't fit, I think, and didn't play all that much. So you also need to keep in mind that maybe it went down in the second half of the season with Robinho in that place, but that ship had already sailed a whole while at a decent pace with that tactic too. So
I think it's very important for everyone to remember that we do have Burak Yilmaz as the first option up front. He's maybe going to be a little bit less reliable as far as playing time this year, coming in with injuries and all that, and he has a track record. But with that said, so when you're getting Diaby, having a guy who has that flexibility where he can play the wing, it's never bad, right? Given that he could often play maybe alongside.
And if you remember, we that was the profile of striker we were looking for in the beginning of the transfer window. That's also one of the reasons that people were talking about Abubakar, because he can play on the wing too, even though I don't necessarily think that's...
And even Gouven. People were really like, Gouven can also play on the wing, which I also disagree with for the most part. But so that's again, flexibility, definitely a key word this summer. But it's not a bad concept, especially when you're talking about kind of squad depth, guys who could come in later in a match and in more than one position. It's never bad. Yeah.
Plus, it's a low risk move in the sense that we're not paying a loan fee; we're only paying his wages. I have that option to buy, which at $5 million, if he does really well,
for a striker, I think
it's realistic enough. Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a great time at Lisbon, but he played in Belgium for 2 years or so, and he was really, really good at Brugge. He scored a lot of goals there, and he was a good finisher of the ball. So I don't know. I think it's a good move. I don't know why people are so down on it. I think it's just the typical, his last club. The fans of his last club aren't talking too well about him, but stay tuned for our transfer episode, and you'll get the lowdown on Diaby and how people in Belgium.
More about that transfer is that people are saying, Batshuayi. See, when they start talking about Batshuayi and then Diaby comes, obviously there's always going to be a bit of disappointment there.
Batshuayi was a pipe dream, I mean, that's one of those things, like, if we could have gotten Batshuayi, obviously, that would have been amazing. But then again, you don't have the versatility with Batshuayi. Batshuayi is not a player that you're going to put on the wings, is it? And then the thing, what are you going to do then when Burak is fit? Are you going to put Batshuayi on the bench then?
Yes. See, for me, is that when the press start talking about a marquee name, and then when someone comes who isn't a marquee name, when that happens instead, obviously, I think it's quite natural for the disappointment to be there.
Yeah, but clear.
But
yeah,
not
I
rational.
think, you know what the thing is? The problem is that our fans are looking.
It's always going to happen, you know what I mean?
The problem is our fans are looking at what Fenerbahce and Galatasaray, and to a larger extent Galatasaray, are doing, and they're envious. But if you look at pure rationally and objectively at the transfers we made, they're all low costs.
Yeah.
You know, the highest wage I think we gave this summer is 1.8 million for.
And he's also the oldest among them. They're none of the other players are 30.
And the most
and none of the other players are even 30. And so we've actually added a theme on this podcast is this core that we started developing by bringing in guys like Ljajic and Karius who are in their sort of mid to late 20s. So we've added to that.
And look at the wages. Look at the wages Galatasaray are paying the players they signed. Look at the wages even Fenerbahce are paying the players they signed. We are building a team. We are building a team around a specific idea. We are getting players with that in mind. We aren't just buying players to buy players. We aren't just signing big names to sign big names. We are actually going after profiles. We are looking to fit in the puzzle pieces in a certain system the coach wants to play. And you know, our fans have been criticizing the board for not buying Şenol Güneş the players he wanted and the players he needed. Back then we were under very serious financial fair play restraints. The same restraints Fenerbahce and Galatasaray are under right now, which is probably why they are forced to go after certain players that are free but have high wage costs and high signing bonuses. But financial fair play apparently doesn't really, you know, they only care whether you're. Yeah, you can barely call it a loophole. It's completely counterintuitive because you're damaging the future longevity of your club by giving out these huge wages, because that's just putting the problem further down the road, and you're committing yourself long term to high wage bills. I think it's better to pay It's better to pay 5 million euros for an Nkudu who earns 1.6 million a year, I'd say,
and who's only 27
and who's 24, 25 years old, than to pay 9 million euros over 3 years to a 33-year-old Ryan Babel.
I have to say, and perhaps, you know, this has been a very positive episode, so it's kind of continuing in that vein, but I am not in any way envious of our rivals' transfers. You know, Luis Gustavo and Max Cruz for Fener, and obviously Falcao now, and the like for Galatasaray.
Well, Cruz is a fantastic player. I wouldn't mind to have him, but I wouldn't know where to fit him in.
I'm not at all envious of his like big names which come with giant fees, because I think, you know, the notion of this financial fair play, you can find these loopholes and all that stuff, but the logic of them is still sound. Like, if you can find a way to create like a healthy ecosystem financially where the club is producing talent and selling, like you any club to be truly successful long term with real longevity, consistency, is going to be working on all channels, right? Developing players to sell, bringing in good new players. You know, maybe the occasional older player with a name, if it fits.
Yeah, you need some experience, and I think that's what the good thing is that Fenerbahce kind of have a somewhat healthy mix. I feel like, because they have Ferdi Kadiolo, who's really talented and getting chances and doing well, and they have Vedat Muric, who's like 25, so he definitely still has long-term value. Then they also have, you know, the experienced guys like Kruse, like Emre Belözoğlu, are probably on their final contracts. Maybe Kruse not yet, but I mean, that's okay. But if you look at them, for example, Galatasaray squad, the only two players that really have proper sell-on value towards the future are the two center backs, Marcao and Luyendama. You could argue Feguli and Belhanda, they're only in their early 30s, or Belhanda might still be 29, but yeah, I mean, if you look at the rest of that team, from what they actually own, because of course they don't own Michael Seri, they don't own Lemina, they're never gonna own them because they have ridiculous buyout clauses of 18 million too.
And now they're gonna be competing for time and
Yeah. And the rest of the players that they actually own is, well, Adam Buke, is they're never going to get money for him. Ryan Babel, they're unlikely to get money. Well, they might, but they're unlikely to get money for him.
I love that Adam Buke, who like started my whole shit list in the beginning, actually was part of this window that we're criticizing. It's kind of a little like icing on the cake.
I'm not saying saying it's a bad signing,
No,
but if you look at what the players they signed, they're all 30 plus, except for Emre Mor and then of course the guy. Well, and those are guys they loaned too, but they've just. I think what we're doing is better. There's a vision behind it. We're not just getting a big name and spending ridiculous amounts of money. Now, obviously, would we want someone like Falcao at Beşiktaş? Obviously, sure, yeah, he's an amazing player. But at the same time, he's had a lot of injuries. He's had, and he's 33, going on 34 now. From what I've been told by experts on the French league, starting to show some signs of slowing down. And then you're going to pay him a guaranteed wage of 5 million plus. He's probably going to be making plus. Yeah, ridiculous amounts of bonuses, which is probably going to add up to 7.5 million a year, and that's without winning trophies. You know, if he wins a trophy, then that's an automatical couple 100,000 more. Maybe you're obviously when if you win the league, that's worth it because you get Champions League money. But let's say they don't win the league, then I don't know what's going to happen, and that's. Obviously moves that fans are going to be envious of, but we need to remember what happened to us when we signed Pepe and did not win the league.
I mean, forget Pepe. Remember Simão, Sabrosa, and that crazy. Like we're literally digging our way out of this just crappy sinkhole that was created in that era. You were watching Galatasaray make the mistake we made in the Demirodan era, as if they haven't been doing it as well the whole time.
Yeah, but it's about having a sustainable wage bill that won't bring you in massive trouble if you miss Champions League football. And obviously, when you're playing Champions League football, you can invest a little bit more. I'm not saying you can't. You know, I'm not saying you can't. I mean,
you have to, right? Actually,
yeah. I mean, you have to invest. You have to invest.
Not $7.5 million for one guy.
But in a league where there's only one guaranteed Champions League ticket, you should. I think that's a massive gamble. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're financially healthy, go for it. But we all know that's not the case with any of the top clubs in Turkey right now. And yeah. Anyway, enough of a rant. I think if you look at our transfers, every single one of them, we haven't signed a single surplus player. We haven't signed a single Mehmet Akgün type. You know, all the players we signed, all 7 transfers. 7, right? All 7,
yeah, 7
are potential starters
and potential building blocks for that core. Yeah. We're building out the core. No, yeah. I love it. I love almost every move, and those I don't love, I like. You know, or I can find a reason to anyway. So I promised a positive episode, and you won't be disappointed if that's what you needed in your life. But let's close this thing out because you guys got to go to bed. It's late. We got to get this episode up for these wonderful listeners of ours. Yeah, I mean, okay, quickly, before we do that, as I said, of course, we're not going to be playing this coming week, so
we should still talk about the departures, Sinan. 2 big departures.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe the biggest departure in a long time. The other than Kartal Quaresma. Huge. We need to talk about that.
It is a big one. Well, so I was going to mention the news that we have a friendly scheduled for the 7th this weekend.
That's not Tuesday. We're
playing Umraniye for those who are just craving football, Beşiktaş football.
We should touch on Quaresma before we touch on that. I think that's
that's all I was going to say. That's it. We're playing Umraniye this weekend if you need any football, and Gazişehir on the 15th. But that's, stay tuned. But before we sign out, quickly, we should definitely mention a couple guys have left the squad. Kaan, you go first.
Yeah, Gary Medel joined Bologna in Serie A for a transfer fee of 1.25 million, so guaranteed, and then there's an additional bonus of 250,000, I think, if they manage to avoid relegation. So that's 1.5 million, hopefully, for Beşiktaş for an aging player on a high wage, 2.3 million a year. Medel was on, and obviously I think we all love Medel as a utility player in the squad, but he was just earning way too much money, and it was a good way to part ways with him. He had a send-off, went to say goodbye to the team, and he left on very good terms. So that's always always great to see. Ricardo Quaresma is the other one that left. That was a little bit more messy, unfortunately.
Less acrimonious,
yeah, but at the end of the day, again, something that needed to be done, I think. He joined Kasımpaşa, so those of you who are huge Ricardo Quaresma fans can still watch and enjoy him playing for Kasımpaşa. He actually already made his debut on the weekend, played 45 minutes for them, and had a decent showing, although they did lose 1-0 at home. But Quaresma, another big wage off the wage bill. So 2 big wages off the wage bill, and we, of course, got in Diaby and Elneny to replace those wages with lower wages.
Yeah, we've dropped the wage bill by like 30%, I think, so...
Yeah, done really well this year. It's down to 30 million this year, which is very good.
Yeah.
That's exactly, I think FIFA Thorman actually said last year that we want to bring the wage bill down to 30 million for next season. He's done that, so well done to
they worked within their limitations, and I think there's so much criticism on this window, and I think all of it is irrational and unfair. I think this was maybe the best window ever.
We're going to get a couple results, and these people will change their tune. Take my word.
I mean, you need to look at the budget, you need to look at the average quality of players we got, and then you need to look at what we needed. I think we filled every single position we needed filling. Obviously, we could have done with 1 or 2 more transfers for squad depth, but I think in terms of urgent needs, we filled every position. I think people are just a little bit disillusioned because the striker we ended up getting is small.
Yeah, a little guy.
I think if this guy was like 1.85 m, people would be, oh, it's great.
Yeah, right.
You know?
It's always some superficial nonsense that everyone's getting worried about.
Men and their obsessions with length. It's all about girth.
It's all about what they're doing on the pitch, guys.
It's all about what you use it for, exactly.
But so, all right. Stay tuned. We'll be back with the usually scheduled post-match reviews and all that for the match against Gazişehir, where we're going to be on the road. Going to travel all the way out to the east of Turkey. That's going to be on the 15th. There's still no time announced. Again, the friendly is going to be a little earlier for those of you who are craving Beşiktaş football. That'll be against Ümraniye. Again, before Burak's return against Beşiktaş, we're going to have our first Europa League game that's on the 19th after the Gazişehir match. So if Diaby is the option for striker, in the meanwhile, he'll get 2 matches before Burak's return against Beşiktaş, against Gazişehir, and Slovan Bratislava. 2 matches that should theoretically be good chances for Diaby to get his feet wet, maybe score a goal, get some confidence going. But take us out, Kaan.
So I think that's pretty much it. Make sure to check out our episode on the weekend on the transfers, and then early next week on our Europa League group stage preview for our opponents Braga, Wolverhampton and Slovan Bratislava. Interviews are either already recorded or lined up for those, so that episode will drop soon. And check out Football Ala Turca if you're interested in other Turkish clubs in Europe. I'll be doing a preview for Trabzonspor's group. They're up against FC Basel, Getafe and Krasnodar. Very tough group, very interesting group. 4 teams are very much matched in terms of quality, I believe. And then Başakşehir are in a group with AS Roma, Borussia Mönchengladbach, and the Wolfsburger from Austria. So not Wolfsburg from Germany, but Wolfsburger from Austria. And then, of course, Galatasaray are in the Champions League with Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, and Club Brugge. So that's going to be fun. Those episodes will be up also in the near future on Football Ala Turca, so please do check those out. That's it for me. Kartal, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll hope to have you on again soon, maybe in a Quaresma episode, and of course we need to have everyone on too. Sinan, thank you very much, and take us out.
Go Beşiktaş! Let's go! Guys, stay tuned. Last incoming material to digest. Beşiktaş.
Love the game, though. Lots of good reviews.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.